So I made a $45,000 mistake. My $45,000 mistake happened when I outsourced some development. And that's why I'm very particular about not going overseas, just because I feel like for our product, it's so detail-oriented and you have to understand real estate in order to develop it. But I went ahead and I hired a company to come in and help build that native version of the client app. The web-based version's already built. We're just going to be able to convert it. And we got about 90% of it done. Like they thought 90% of it was done. And it was terrible. My name is Reannah Wyatt, and I'm founder and president of Real Time.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
The company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Reannah Wyatt made a platform to simplify the world of real estate for realtors and their clients in real time. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does, settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. Reannah Wyatt is from Bandera, Texas, raised on a fourth-generation cattle and horse ranch. Eventually, she went to West Texas for school, rodeoing for Howard College, specifically barrel racing. She eventually started selling residential real estate and fell in love with the industry. But outside of tech and real estate, she's a mom and still loves horses and cattle. She doesn't rodeo anymore, but she still rides horses as often as she can. Reannah was in residential real estate for over a decade and was in the mix when Zillow was launched. The platform helped her grow her business, and she knew this was where the industry was headed. But what she couldn't understand was why wasn't there something built to track the end-to-end real estate process and transaction? This is the creation story of the Real Time.
So crazy story. So like I said, I was in residential real estate and I was in it for over a decade. So as you can probably imagine, a lot changed in technology. When I broke into the industry, people were still spending $20,000 a month on newspaper ads for new listings. And a new company was coming onto the market, which was Zillow. And I was the youngest person at our firm. I thought, what do I know? But when I heard about Zillow, I thought, man, I really feel like that's where the industry's going. I feel like people in my generation are going to want to look at their phones to look at homes. And so I watched that transition, and I invested in Zillow and some leads and grew my business at a rapid speed and worked really hard and just worked from morning till night. But really hit that kind of curve coming in, and it really blessed me. So I grew a very strong and successful residential real estate business in West Texas. And as that was all changing, things were happening, and I realized that it was just mind-blowing to me that in this day and age that we can track everything in our lives. You can track a pizza being made, package being delivered to your front door. But my clients, when they go to make the biggest purchase typically of their life, there was no good way for them to track it. They'd call me and they'd say, Reannah, I know you told me this, but remind me what day is closing, or what am I missing anything? Am I supposed to be doing something right now? Or can you please resend those documents to me? So that was just so mind-blowing to me. I could not believe in every other industry they were doing this, and there was not a good option in the real estate realm. And then alongside of that, I was just as frustrated on the realtor side of the software we were offered. And everything we were offered to use, I felt was clunky, just had a big learning curve, and it felt like a room of developers created it and just never asked a single working realtor, what do you want to see here? So with that, I felt that I had found a white space in the industry. So that was about 3 years ago, and I would have never imagined all that has happened in the 3 years. But I set out, did not know a single thing about tech, software, nothing. And that's where I always talk about just your network of people, which when I say network, really just your friends, your family, the people you work for, the people you know. I don't care if it's at the grocery store, whatever it is, that's your network. And it blessed my life tremendously, because I told one person and they led me to another person, and then that kept going. And I ended up interviewing multiple companies to build our first version, went with a company out of Fort Worth, which was the perfect company to do it. We built our first version, and then it's grown from there. So now we're a full team of 5. We're in-house. We do all of our development here in Fort Worth, and we don't do anything overseas. So all of it's controlled right here. And Real Time, to answer your first question, is a real estate platform for realtors to use to manage all their transactions and their clients in one spot. And then once they establish a relationship with their client, they invite them to download the app, and it gives both parties, everyone involved, a better experience, letting them track everything in real time and just bringing all that synchronicity together and enhancing that process for everybody involved. And so we set out to really change the way that real estate's done, and we're not stopping there.
Let's dive into what you would consider the MVP for the Real Time. Probably those early days when you picked your partner, you built the first version. Tell me about that process. What sort of process you went through to bring it to life, interacting with that third party, the whole shebang?
So I literally took the 500 and something transactions I had done as a realtor and all those systems I used. And what I did, which this is hilarious, but I literally just built a PowerPoint and I did little mock-up drawings of what I would imagine Real Time to be. And I did a presentation to my dev team and just said, this is what I want to do. I want to take these checklists and these tasks and these notifications that we are all doing manually, and I want to push them into this one spot. And so from there, we started with the Realtor platform. So we knew that, hey, the client app is a great idea, but if I don't have a fabulous place for these realtors to want to work, they're not going to want to use Real Time. So we built a spot for them to go in and manage their transactions, which gives them all their information in one spot, checklists, they can upload documents and set tasks for their clients. And then we built the client app, which of course was all web-based at first, and went through that process. And so we soft launched that about a year and a half ago. And one thing I had learned and read was to ship your product before it's ready. And that's like such a difficult thing to do because you're like, it's just not there yet. It's not the vision I have for it. But it was absolutely the best move. And I always encourage other founders is get it out there and then listen to your people. Listen to what they want, what they don't like, and don't be a salesman, but actually just be a student of what the people are wanting and what they're liking, what they're not liking. And I always encourage people, like when I was going through, even now, but really those first versions, is to not sell your product to them. Don't be a salesman. I'm such a salesman, so I don't really like to call myself a salesman, but naturally when I tell people about this new product I was working on, they're like, oh yeah, I love it. And they don't even really know about it. They're just saying it because of the excitement and the joy I have with it when I talk about it. So you got to be very careful to really put that test down and say, okay, is this actually a good idea? Is this working? What's not working? So that's kind of how that first version went out. We knew it was really good. We got got it in some hands, and then we went on to build the native app.
Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since. Especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. You've got that MVP. You're setting out to test the idea, to get the feedback you're looking for, and you're getting it. How did you progress from that point? You mentioned building the native app next. I'm curious about how you built your roadmap, how you went about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with the real time.
It took a while to build that platform, the first part of it, the real estate platform, because real estate, there are so many moving parts. And so when you're developing something like this, if it's going to be good, you have to think through each button and then absolutely each scenario that could take place. And in a transaction, there's cash, there's conventional, there's VA loans, there's selling, buying. We had to work through all that. And I knew the next part was the client app. And then from there, it was really just taking that kind of 1.0 version and growing the realtor portal and the client app to be the best product possible. And then going up against money. So the capital is always a factor, and software is very expensive to build. So I had to be very intentional about what we were doing and be as savvy as possible with the dollars I had.
I'm curious about teams. So you went out and chose a development partner for the early version, and now you mentioned there's 5 of you that are in-house. I'm curious about both selection processes, right? So in choosing the team that you worked with initially, I'm curious about what process you went through to identify the best one. And then I'm also curious about what did you look for in the people that you hired full-time, to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
The main thing I knew that was so important that when I looked at my competitors was the UI, the design of the software we were being offered. When you opened it, it brought me everything but peace. And when I looked at apps on my phone or different softwares I used on my computer, I knew that design was a very important part. And that you got to think about the people using the software. And I always talk about the realtor in the white BMW. And she's not going to want the same thing that a coder is going to want to see on the screen. So you always have to think through that perspective. So to answer your first question, when I went and interviewed companies, I wanted someone that was very strong in design because I knew that was going to be a huge factor to making us stand out against the competitors. So that was really the big thing, was going from there. I was very fortunate to have worked with some really great people in that first company. And so the reason I went to that company was a friend of a friend, and we ended up hitting it off. And he's actually a co-founder in real time and is a developer and designer. So when I know that I literally have a unicorn on my team, which is so special because he speaks both languages and then can also turn around and translate it from the idea that this little old realtor has, look at it from a coding standpoint and from a design standpoint. His name is Carlos and is an absolute, just a star, a force to be reckoned with. So he was a huge part of our company. And then from there, he directed me to some people who was contracted on real time that joined in and was like, hey, I think this would be a great fit. And one thing about me, whenever I hire folks on my team, is it has to be someone that has the same work ethic I do. And I am all about working hard, but I always tell people you got to be fine with cleaning toilets. Everybody on this team has to be good with cleaning toilets. We all do a little bit of everything and nobody's above anything. And so when I went out and I hired people on the team, that was a big factor. First of all is that personality, those traits I have to find. And then, of course, their skill set. Got Carlos on the team, and then we went on and I hired a full back-end developer. And she was a gal that, like I said, had been a part of the original development, came on board with us, and is, again, amazing. The amount of development we do, Noah, for our small team is absolutely incredible. And Jordan is the reason behind that. So that's really, we work with 2 of those coders. That's all we run. And then the rest of our team is Megan, who's our chief of operations, and then Charlie, who's sales. So it's a team of 5.
This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Your coding agents have access to your code base. Maybe you even connected other tools via MCPs. But access doesn't mean context. Agents can't reason across MCPs. They don't know your architectural decisions, your team's patterns, or why the API was shaped the way it is. So agents look in the wrong place and deliver bad outputs. Then you spend time correcting. More loops, more tokens. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. Okay, so I'm curious about scale. And there's scale in several different arenas, right? There's technical scale, and there's also scale of business. And I'm curious about, how you approach that in the beginning. And really, I'm interested if there's been any interesting areas where you've had to fight scale as you've grown.
Scalability is a huge thing because in technology, like you were talking about in the beginning of this, is that you have to figure out what tools the people want, right? And so, of course, we launched the client app, the realtor portal, but then from there, it was like, if we're going to scale, we have to be able to do the things that these other softwares are doing. And so that's when our development right now, we're in a very heavy stage of development. And so here we realized that the broker compliance platforms and the different tools that we needed in order to grow and be able to win huge amounts of crowds when it came to the real estate realm, that's where we are now. So right now it's heavy development, I believe, in order to scale. And then from a marketing standpoint, it's different. But right now we're very focused on just building the absolute best product out there and being focused on that.
So as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built thus far with the real-time, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the realtor portal, actually. Of course, the client app is the part that everybody loves because no one else in the industry was doing it. And it is such a huge thing. But the realtor portal, I just think it moves so well. It literally benefits the life. And I'm sure from how hard that was to build. And anything you do, it takes, if anything that it's very simple for a consumer to use, was very difficult to build on the back end. So I would say that part was such a labor of love. I didn't anticipate it to be as hard as it was, but I'm very proud of it. And then right now we're going to be launching in the next 30 days our realtor app. And that's really the next thing that I am so excited about because there's nothing else like it on the market.
Okay, Reannah, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
So I made a $45,000 mistake. And I always tell people I love to talk about mistakes because I love to learn their mistakes. I love to talk about my own mistakes because it's the best way for us to grow, right? My $45,000 mistake happened when I outsourced some development. And that's why I'm very particular about not going overseas, just because I feel like for our product, it's so detail oriented and you have to understand real estate in order to develop it. But I went ahead and I hired a company to come in and help build that native version of the client app. And I thought, this is going to be easy. Me and my co-founder were like, yeah, it's already, the web-based version's already built. We're just going to be able to convert it. And we got about 90% of it done. Like they thought 90% of it was done. And it was terrible. It was not to the standard. And so I said, hey, we're stopping at this point. We're going to trash this product. But I will say that taught me that you cannot just go out and hire a development team. It's not their fault. They're just getting little bits of information and they're trying to build it to fit you without really knowing your company or knowing you. And that was a really big mistake that I made, but it ended up being a huge blessing because it actually taught my co-founder how to build a native app. He already had a lot of dev skills, but when he was watching them build that native app, it gave him those extra skills. And he ended up building his own version side by side with theirs. So we trashed that one and we went with his. And that's actually the current one we have today.
So let's move forward then. This will be fun. What does the future look like for the real time, for the product, the platform, and for your team?
I'm so excited about this because, of course, like I talk about, we have this transaction management platform that is really like the process of buying and selling, right? That comes into play once you find a home. But we're moving way past that. And we really want to change the way that people and clients and realtors experience real estate. From the moment you start searching a home to way past that, to the way you manage the maintenance on your home and much more. So we've got some really cool partnerships coming up. And we've got some cool things, events that we are going to be at. And so we're just growing, we're meeting people, doing different connections and stuff. So we don't plan to stop here. And I feel that we're at the right place at the right time in the industry.
Let's switch to you, Reannah. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I am a big fan of Emma Grede, who runs Good American and Skims. And she actually has a podcast. And I love, of course, like when it comes to females, especially mamas, and me being a single mom and working and all these things, I love hearing how other women are doing it and being open and authentic. And so I would say that I really look up to her. I love, of course, strong women like Kendra Scott and Sarah Blakely, who just started with nothing and kept building and just had a ton of tenacity. And so that's the folks that I like to focus on and read, because I look at it and I think if they can do it, then I should be able to do it too.
Okay, Reannah, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit now?
I would tell them that it really is that hard. So when you reach those moments where you're like, it cannot be this hard. Is this how hard, or is this the world telling me that I should not keep going? No, it really is that hard. Every founder goes through that exact thing. Multiple times your company will almost die. That is actually how it works. And you'll hear different entrepreneurs and founders say, really, it's who doesn't quit. And so I would tell that young entrepreneur, when you get to points where you're like, I can't keep going, you can. You find it in you. You keep fighting. You keep praying. You keep your eyes open, and always be ready to move and bounce and listen to your feedback. And the game is move quick. When you know something's not working, fix it. If you know something's needed, change it. Move towards it. Develop quickly, and always be on your toes and be able to move with the industry and your brand and what you're doing.
That's fantastic advice. It is that hard, for sure. Well, Reannah, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of the real time.
Thank you so much.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
One of the biggest challenges of earning a degree as a military veteran is transitioning your goals and experiences to your next phase in life. National University gets it. As a veteran-founded Yellow Ribbon School, they offer post-9/11 GI Bill acceptance, dedicated military support and advising services, and credit for your military experience. That's why 30% of their students are military affiliated. NU, education that serves those who served.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, Get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.